From the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between, this is the 50/50 Podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 Podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game. Here we go. It's another edition of Inside Texas High School Soccer, episode 10. I am your host, Coach Hector Cano, along with Mr. Hollywood himself, Mr. at Papa Socceritis. Rafa, how are you, buddy?
Good. Just enjoying my Friday night watching the Spurs be the spoiler tonight.
I was going to say, you're still cheesing over the Spurs knocking off the Nuggets, man.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Gets a little payback, I guess, for the other losses. So might as well.
Yeah. Well,
you got to enjoy the season, even though it's been a long one.
Yeah, you ain't lying. Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, well, I'll get sidetracked quick. You get me talking about the Spurs, but yeah, so awesome. Well, hey, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you being here. And hey, day 3, championship week, day 3, Birkelbach, Georgetown is in the books, complete. And my God, it was unbelievable, right? A great day of games, 5 games, crowned our second state champion today as well. So we got a lot to go over, a lot that we're going to discuss. Got a loaded show again today. So we're going to have, in case if you missed yesterday's show, definitely go back, check it out. It was the day 2 recap. We had a couple of guests, including, well, kind of a guest, right? We can't really necessarily count Steve Sanchez. He's a team member, so he's always welcomed on here. But we also had Coach Stephanie Sazo, right? She is the assistant, Region 1 assistant director at Tasco, the head women's soccer coach at El Paso del Valle. She was with us yesterday, and she's going to be joining us in a few minutes as well, just shortly as well. But before we get into any of that, Coach, big thing, we had 5 games today. 6A joined the party today. We had started off at 9:30 a.m. with Austin Westlake versus Rockwall. And I know Coach Sazo wasn't covering that one this morning, the very first one. So we wanted to go ahead and cover that one. Then we'll bring her in to discuss the other 4 matches of the day. Excited to have her on. But let's talk about, so this first one, 6A girls semifinal number 1, Austin Westlake and Rockwall. Let me bring that up real quick. So we're going to kind of look at the day that was, but kind of want to set the stage as a refresher for everybody in terms of what that looked like. Because I know most people typically look at one game for the day, right? Maybe 2 sometimes. But this is what today looked like, right? 9:30, 12, 2:35, and 7 p.m. All times approximate, of course. The only one that ever truly gets started on time is the first one. But Rockwall came in 21-3-2 versus Austin Westlake 16-4-2. What were your thoughts on what ended up being? I don't know. Should I be the dude I told you so guy? I don't know. What do you think?
I think the surprise of the game, the day, yeah. I mean, when you get to this point, like I said, I think any team can be beaten. I mean, you just can't take anybody lightly, regardless of the records and so forth, the path you took. But, you've seen what the Dallas area teams have done the last few days. And, it's been a tall task for a lot of the, the other teams in the region, from the Houston area, San Antonio, Austin, the Valley, El Paso, but this was like you mentioned, this was an interesting matchup. Like you mentioned, Westlake was not the best team in their district. That you had some other teams, you had Buto Johnson, that Austin Anderson team that won the district title, and like Lake Travis, and then finally we're like Rockwall, finally came back into the tournament. It was basically kind of dominated with Wiley East, and they were kind of get over the hump from that. So, they were the favorites going in, and it turned out to be a great game.
Yeah. We talked about, I had mentioned it last night, right? There's a little clip out there on Twitter where I just said, it's like, I was very intrigued about this match, right? It was I had this feeling about this one, that it was going to be people like to bill it DFW versus Austin, DFW versus another region, what have you. But I had a just interesting feeling about this Westlake group, right? Because they look so different from what we've seen in the past and how they win, how they grind out wins. And you're right. I mean, they uh they finished third in their district, and yet now here they are getting ready to play for a state title, right? So, and this a solid team, good team. You look at their record as well, but I don't, but maybe overlooked by many and discounted by many more. And yet here they are, right? Here they are, and excuse me, they finish it off 1-0 in a tight match, grind it out just as usual. Rockwall had early possession, great passing, great sequences, connecting passes, possession, purposeful possession, but with nothing to show for it. And the longer they allowed Westlake to hang around, right, and hang around, and it started to become advantage Westlake, the kind of game that Westlake has been battle tested down the road this season. And sure enough, they get a goal late in that second half, and the rest is history. Austin Westlake emerges the winner 1-0 over Rockwall, and they advance to they advance to the 6A girls final, which will be played tomorrow. We'll talk about tomorrow later. But your thoughts as they advance, Coach, and Rockwall. Great season for Rockwall. They finished 21-4-2 on the year, as Rockwall goes home and Austin Westlake advances.
I mean, if you look at what Westlake's kind of done, and like I said, we got to see them last week. They're a young team. They're not as experienced as some of these other teams in the state tournament. So they're feeling good that they I think they may have been underestimated by Rockwall. Rockwall probably thought, hey, we're here, we should take care of business, but like I said, they found a way to grind it out, and they were able to sneak one in, and that was the difference. Once they got one in, they pretty much kind of sealed the deal, and they were able to hold on. And I think they saved the penalty kick too, so that could have been a game changer too.
Right.
And Rockwell wasn't able to put the rebound in, convert in. So that's the difference maker. And like I said, sometimes it does come back to luck and the stars aligning. So who knows? This could be something really special for Westlake and going to to tomorrow. But like I said, they're gonna have another tall task. But like I said, but they're a team that, like I said, you can't underestimate them. But they're up for the challenge. They're not gonna shy away. They're well coached. They got talent. They're gonna fight to the end, and we'll see what the result is tomorrow.
Yeah. Crazy story. Not shocked one bit though in terms of Austin Westlake whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, here we are, and they're on the verge of they're playing for it all tomorrow. So yeah, just I don't know. I'm kind of a little bit not shocked, but yet somehow in certain aspects a little speechless as well. So all right, so that takes us over to girls semifinal number 2 of the day, which was Prosper and Katy Seven Lakes. Prosper coming in 24-2-2 on the year. Katy Seven Lakes coming in at 19-3-5. And we're going to go ahead and bring in my favorite frenemy. There she is, my friend, Coach Stephanie. Coach, how are you, buddy?
Good. How are you guys?
I'm doing great. We're doing great. We're better that you're here with us now. And hey, look at the comment that we got coming in from the 4A boys state champions.
Let's go.
Hello from the Road Warriors state champions for their they just won their 4th state title, and their prize is a 9-hour drive, or no?
Yep.
Yeah, 8.5-hour drive back to Sanelli, to the greater
Road
El Paso area.
Warriors.
So congrats to Coach Sappenfield and his boys, making history there, winning their 4th state title. We're going to discuss that much more later, but thank you for listening, Coach. Tell all the boys congratulations as well. And yeah, great stuff. I know you guys making that great community, that community of champions there in Sanelli, proud, and also the home of the community of Ricardo Pepe, for those who don't know that. So, Coach, you're here. You're with us. Let's jump right in. Prosper, 6A girls semifinal number 2. Prosper and Katy Seven Lakes. Your thoughts, as I know you were watching this one very closely.
Yeah, I was. And one of the biggest key players that they've had was Olivia Hess, right? But surprisingly, Katie Seven Lakes did such a fantastic job marking up in the middle and kind of took Olivia Hess out for a little bit, right? And I think that kind of gave room for Brooklyn Miller to shine. Of course, as you guys saw, Brooklyn Miller kicked off the goal scoring opportunities with her amazing header off of the crossbar, kind of opened things up. And then Reagan Roberts went ahead and followed in with that second goal. And then Brooklyn Miller again with the third goal. But all in all, Seven Lakes held them up. They did a fantastic job marking key players and making Prosper work for it. And I think going into halftime, things were kind of at a stalemate. After halftime, things started to kind of open up and the game got a little bit wider, more dynamic. And props to Prosper because they just, once the floodgates open, they just took advantage and they were able to put three in the net. So that's, I mean, Katie Seven Lakes is a fantastic team. And Coach Eitzen does such a phenomenal job reading the game, making adjustments tactically. And Prosper was still able to handle those adjustments and find three in the net. So,
yeah. And, the interesting piece about this one was coming in, and Rafa's my witness. We were talking about this in our Texas high school soccer crew chat, right? Was we really liked Prosper going into this match, really going into this into the state tournament if they could figure out how to score, right? That was the knock, right? It's like phenomenal defense. You are going to be really hard pressed to score on, and probably arguably the toughest defense in this field, right? The question is like, the hesitation is like, if they can't figure it out in the attack, it's going to be hard. They're going to be hard pressed to try to grind it out in 100 minutes and win in penalties back to back, right after they've already done that. So, today they definitely came alive for sure. Ken Murphy's in here basically saying the exact same thing, right? Finally, Prosper's offense finally decided to break out this afternoon. And the defenses was kind of, defense wins championships. That's what has clearly stood. That's what has separated this Prosper group from the Prosper group, the very talented Prosper squads of recent memory that have, they've been on the short end. They've been on the end of some upsets, right? Some first rounders as well. And now here they are. They're, potentially 80 minutes or 80 plus minutes away from a state title. Rafa, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that was the thing with Prosper, defensive wise, what they're going to give. It was going to be a struggle for, Seven Lakes to try to crack the code and get a ball, into the net. But on the flip side, like I said, for Prosper, that offense kind of had sputtered the last few games. And, knowing that going to the state tournament, you have to score some goals. And, your luck might run out, going to another 0-0 game. And this time, maybe you'll lose the penalty kick shootout. So I think this is the right time that their offense got it going, and they're able to net three, and hopefully that leads, for tomorrow, that's some momentum for them, and also a confidence booster for them too, knowing, okay, we still got the shutout, but now we have now we're clicking on offense, and like I said, they're gonna have to grind it out with Westlake, and Westlake is not gonna give them anything for free there. It's gonna be a dogfight, and but like I said, this is a confidence booster for them, and like I said, they're going to be probably much the clear favorite for tomorrow, but it's going to be an exciting game for the final.
Yeah. So congratulations, Katie Seven Lakes, Coach Idson, who we just had on. Phenomenal season, right? They break through, make it back to state. One of three schools that had both of their teams there at state. So congratulations to them. Phenomenal season. They finished the year 19-4-5, and Prosper advances to take on Austin Westlake. We will look at these more in depth later on in the show, but Prosper advances to tomorrow's 6A state final versus Austin Westlake. So we will look at the 4A boys final between Sonelli and Bernie at the end of day 3 today. So then from here we shift to the evening, right? The boys come on, the 6A boys join the party, 5 p.m. First one, we had Katie Seven Lakes versus Duncanville in what was a highly entertaining match. Coach Sazo, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I was really impressed with that Duncanville team, man. I mean, two completely different styles, but Duncanville really took me for a loop with just how well organized that they were. A couple of people that stood out for me were Leonardo Coronado. He was extremely solid, and he was an offensive powerhouse. Holds the ball extremely well, especially with his back to goal, and he's really good in tight spaces. I could not count on two hands how many times he was in a tight space and still some way he finagled his way out. But that's just how a lot of the Duncanville players were, right? You had him, and then you had Fabricio Martinez, again, very technical, very good in tight spaces. Nathaniel Zozoya, which is he was playing in the center back or kind of like a sweeper. I mean, just kept Duncanville in the game, did such a phenomenal job defensively to keep Seven Lakes at bay, and things were kind of like very similar to the game we just finished talking about, right? Kind of at a stalemate, and then Seven Lakes kind of started to figure things out, figured out what worked for them, and started to open up. I think Seven Lakes spent a little bit of time trying to analyze and see what they needed to do, and they were very analytical the first half, trying to see what works, what doesn't work, what is Duncanville doing, what is their reaction when we play out wide versus when we play inside. And they adjusted and came out, and boy, did they come out, right? We had number 4, Eduardo Davillo, scoring the goal with 10 minutes left in the second half. And then, of course, their goalkeeper stood out to me, Benjamin Aviles. He had a save in the 12th minute. Absolutely incredible save to keep them still at 0-0, right? And then a huge save in the last 6 minutes that could have brought Duncanville back into the game. But I think more than anything, of course, everybody knows that Seven Lakes is returning Noah Stasek and their number 10, right? Who was Gatorade Player of the Year, Aiden Morrison. I mean, Aiden Morrison, yeah, assisting that goal, and Noah Stasek's opening up with that first goal. I mean, just the way they combine and the way that they play with each other, it seems like they've been playing with each other forever. Yeah. And it's no surprise why Seven Lakes is in that final tomorrow. Noah Stasek and Aiden Morrison, the combination, the soccer IQ amongst all of the Seven Lakes, the grit, the passion, you could just see it, right? And it was just a battle. It was a battle, but man, oh man, that was a great one.
Right. And, I saw Noah's post-match, and that you and I talked about Noah's post-match interview, right? And talking about how they've really hit their stride since coming into the regional tournament. And I've been kind of sort of not on the record, but kind of loosely, definitely off the record, really up until now, kind of saying that this Katy Seven Lakes group just looked to me like they were, no disrespect to any of their district opponents, because they play in a very tough district, but they just looked like they were trying to find new ways to, I don't know, to motivate themselves, right? And just get through the grind that is district play with anticipation of the state playoffs. And and I think as they have definitely very talented squad. Many people feel even more talented in terms of what they brought back than last year's state championship squad. But it's also a different squad in terms of, I guess, makeup, personality, but with Coach, between the experience that they gained from last year, everybody they had that came back, plus Coach Kruger, that's going to keep them in line, keep them hungry, keep them focused. I feel like they're gelling. Obviously, they're gelling just at the right time, because they still figured it out. It was very much a match, but they still figured it out in terms of Duncanville. Maybe it took them a little longer. Maybe they were trying to it's part of the chess game, right? But they still were able to figure it out and come out victorious over a very good, very talented, a surging Duncanville squad, and win it 2-0. Coach Rafa, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this was a very highly anticipated game because you weren't sure how Seven Lake was going to approach this Duncanville team, because this team's been very dangerous, and like I said, very dangerous in the playoffs. And like I said, the Seven Lakes, has been vulnerable. Like I said, they came into the playoffs with a loss, and against Cinco Ranch, and we were like, is this the year that they kind of falter here? Is Duncanville has the talent to knock them off? But my hats off to Coach Kruger. He really had the boys prepared. I saw the first goal; it was a great play, very deceptive shot. The goalie thought I was going to go out, and that went, and he was able to kind of needle through it. In between him and the post, and
Mhm.
and they just took over from there. And like I said, and now, like I said, an opportunity to be one of those few teams that gets to repeat again. Um, for especially here in 6A, which is tough
Right.
to do. To repeat as champions in 6A. So,
Yeah.
hats off to Kutcher and the boys. They have a great opportunity tomorrow.
Yeah, no one has done it yet. They are shooting to become the first ones in 6A to repeat as on the boys' side, and in the 10 years, here we are in the 10-year anniversary of 6A, right? So no more fitting time than now, but obviously, obviously they're going to have to go up another against an opponent that's going to have something to say about that. But yeah, I think you've probably heard if you've had these conversations with coaches in the past or you've been in these situations, sometimes one of the hardest jobs you'll have as a coach is when you have an extremely talented squad and keeping them focused, right? Keeping them on track or keeping them all happy, right? Because everybody wants to be the goal scorer, everybody wants to be the hero. So keeping them team oriented, sometimes those are the tougher jobs, right? Now I know there's a lot of us also saying, "Man, I wish I had that had that opportunity," right? Yeah, I mean, it's also one of those careful what you wish for, right? So, yeah, so congratulations to Duncanville on a fabulous season, their first year making it back to state. I think what was that, 86? I think it was. Uh,
Mhm.
so yeah, the last time they won it, right? So great to see them back. I have a feeling they're going to be back for sure much sooner. And Katie Seven Lakes, congratulations to the Spartans, Coach Kruger and his boys as they advance to tomorrow's 6A boys final, and they will take on the winner of the last match of the day, Coach Sazo, who you got to see, who you literally rushed off of Birkelbach, right, to get here and join us. Flower Mound and Austin Vandergrift. Your thoughts on that one, Coach?
Yeah, I thought Vandergrift came in and they were real organized. They were real ambitious. I feel like they were kind of dominating a little bit. They were definitely more tactical, more technical, finding pockets of space and trying to push the ball out wide and get underneath. But a couple of people who stood out for me were number 25, Arian Sonder. My apologies if I'm mispronouncing, but I mean, he just did fantastic, absolutely fantastic, and definitely was one of the reasons why they got so much opportunity on the net. But just super dynamic, super awesome. His long legs just seem to help him maneuver in those tight spaces. And number 22, pardon me, I don't have his name right on hand, but awesome with ball security. I mean, turnovers were next to none. Super good with ball security. Passing accuracy was fantastic. Did not turn over and really helped to open up the field for Vandergrift. Oftentimes you could see them getting real narrow, and he was one of the forces that got the ball distributed out wide, ensured that they were playing to their strengths. And then, of course, Emi Aranda, number 5, very, very creative, very dynamic, offensively technical player. And then, of course, with Louisville Flower Mound, I'm just going to go out there and start off with this. Carter Simpson, the number 8, 45-yard, 50-yard throw in. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. I mean, it does not do it justice watching on the NFHS network, I'm sure, versus in person. All of our mouths were just dropped. And the
Right.
fact that Flower Mound was able to capitalize twice on those throw-ins, it's like an entire another set piece, if you will, right?
Right.
So just, I mean, absolutely the game changer, that throw in. And for them to get on the back end of those throw ins obviously was very pivotal since the first one. And to do it a second time, you can tell that it's going to be really dangerous. And it's going to be a very interesting game tomorrow for that final with that throw in.
Yeah. I immediately when I was watching those, and it was two as well, it took me back to, I think, what was it, 2 years ago? And Rafa, you might recall this. It was so Grapevine, right? Grapevine Girls, their women's program, they had two, not one, but two that could launch it about 35 yards, right? So anytime they were anywhere near the threshold of the final third, they're attacking third, it was basically another corner kick, right? And I saw them in the state semifinal against Bernie Champion, right, where they got 2 goals that changed the momentum, changed the tide of that match in the state semifinal versus Bernie Champion off of throw-ins, right? It was just they were just so difficult to defend, right? And yeah, so watching that, I mean, that's a totally different type of game changer that you have to try to prepare for, right? And I know you talk about the KD7 Lakes coaching staff and Coach Kruger and his staff. You know, they were there watching that up close and impersonal and just trying to see, is like, okay, how are we going to prepare for this? How do we prevent the throw-ins, right? So that in itself will present a interesting, interesting matchup. It's a kind of like a matchup within the match itself, right? So how they will handle that. Obviously, Austin Vandergrift, they played a phenomenal match. They played a great match. They had some opportunities, but those are tough. When you got somebody that can launch the ball like that, you're just not used to seeing that very often. So very difficult to defend. Coach Rafa, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I know Coach mentioned about number 25, Aryan Sonder. I got to see him play last week, and he was a good difference maker in that regional semifinal. And in fact, he didn't play in the regional final. I think he got banged up in that game against Harlan. So it was great to see him back in this game, and because he is a game changer. Also, number 5, you mentioned about number 5. I'm looking at Emi Aranda. He was, he's a very great midfielder, very aggressive on the attack. And also Rahul Gupta, number 22, he's also, I guess, a part of that attack, with Vandergrift. So like I said, Vandergrift really earned their spot here to get to here. But what you can say about Flower Mound? Flower Mound, loads of seniors. I think what 20 something, 27 seniors or something like that on the roster. Yeah. And but that's having those throw-ins, those 30-yard throw-ins is another weapon in itself. And like I said, you mentioned about that game between Bernie Champion and Grapevine. This is another weapon, and this is something that you're starting to see a lot of it. A lot more teams are finding that players are specialized in this, and it's like another corner kick or another free kick for them. And it does cause a lot of, especially if you have height on your team, it's going to be a game changer here. But, like I said, this is a back and forth game, great game. Like I said, both squads very talented. But Flower Mound, just like I said, able to find a way to get in, get the win. And now they got a tough task. Like I said, they got to have to knock off the defending state champs. But it's going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, no doubt. Coach Sazo, you got any other thoughts?
No, not on that one.
We're good. Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure. I didn't know. I thought you might have something else to say. I just want to make sure I came back to you. So yeah, that does it for our 4 of our 5 matches on the day, and we're going to wrap up with the crowning of our second state champion of championship week here in what we knew was going to be a phenomenal match. Right, we knew it was going to be just a battle of wits with coaches. Coach Michael Strong for Bernie, Max Sappenfield for Sun Helly, I believe 6 state titles between the both of these going into this. And, it was chess. It was open match. It was a track meet at times. It was grueling. It was at, the hottest portion of the day, and they're battling with I guess a breeze that really started to become a wind, right, Coach Sazo, is what it seemed like, what it sounded like, and speaking to a lot of people. Your thoughts on this one as it played out, Coach?
Yeah, for sure. But before I do that, I can't tell you how much pride that I have that Sun Eli brought it back. So first and foremost, congratulations, of course, to Max Sappenfield and his boys and the entire Sun Eli Stadio community. It makes me super proud, super excited to see that they won. I was cheering and losing my mind in my El Paso shirt up in the press box, but so incredibly proud of them. Awesome, right? There's a reason why they have this many state championships, and could not be more proud to be there to witness it live in person. So congratulations to them.
There we go. A little air horn action there. There you go.
Yeah. But as far as the game, you're right. There was a lot of factors that came into play. right? The hydration, the heat. It was windy, but it was still really hot. It was the hottest portion of the day, and both the Sanelli boys and the Bernie boys did a fantastic job adjusting to those minor inconveniences. But when it comes to their style of play, two completely different styles of play, and it was just like checkers the entire match. And the score is indicative of what it was like in person. Very methodical. It was a chess match, and I thought Bernie kind of sat back and tried to analyze what San Elisario was doing a little bit. And San Eli, man, oh man, did they just come in full force like little speed racers trying to get through and break through the back line, and they were able to do that. But a couple of key players for me for San Eli, and again, it was a battle of defense. So one of the people that stood out defensively for me right off the bat was their number 12, Marcos Legarda. I mean, not only is he a solid defender that kept them in the game to minimize the threat and to neutralize Bernie's attack, but I mean, that guy was a box to box player, just getting all the way up into the attack. He was just instrumental and phenomenal for San Elisario today. And then, of course, you have the forward Angel Valdez, Eduardo Marquez, Marcos Legarda. I mean, just Francisco Marquez, all of them so technical, so amazing, and just the way that they get through those tight spaces, they did such a good job. And you can see that San Elisario was locked in and ready, and they were coming out to win that title. Bernie was kind of trying to figure out what was going on, and they got some chances, but again, San Elisario was not having that today. They said, we're going home with the state title. And yes, they did.
Yeah. What as this game unfolded, Coach, was there a maybe not a sequence, but were there certain aspects of it that you noticed that maybe surprised you? Something that you saw, something that kind of came out of this at some point, maybe in the second half, maybe some adjustments, and the reaction to those adjustments that maybe you didn't think you would see in this match, or you didn't think you'd see it as early as you did. Maybe it was in the first half. Did anything stand out to you in terms of a reaction to an adjustment or something?
Yeah, absolutely. Right as soon as the goal happened, you saw Bernie make that tactical decision to take one out of the back and push him forward. And they went with three in the back. And with a team like Sanelli, very risky, right? Because they have some people that can really sneak through those pockets of space. And their attack is not just one dimensional. I mean, they're coming from all over the places. You have people flying from right, left, back, front. I mean, they're all over the place. So for them to shift into that three back, knowing that San Elisario has such fast players and dynamic attack and such good ball handling skills, I thought just goes to show how much Bernie wanted it. And when they switched to that three back, I feel like it helped to generate a couple of more opportunities for sure. And then, of course, San Elisario read that, and they were able to make those tactical changes and exploit the wide areas. And they made the change that they needed to make. It's just they didn't have enough time to do it. And San Elisario, on the other end, was able to exploit that wide space with the three back.
Yeah. And a big shout out to Bernie's goalkeeper as well, right? Who definitely kept them in the game. Sanelli definitely had opportunities, lots of opportunities. And Bernie, you just know, right, a Michael Strong team, they're just not going to stop, right? They're going to keep coming. And they had their moments in the second half where you could just tell the legs were starting to look a little heavy. And Sanelli just, they kept coming. Bernie gets their second wind. Ironically, they get in their response, right? They make the adjustment after the goal, and now they're getting more opportunities as well. So you kind of have to sometimes wonder, is like, hey, should I have made that adjustment sooner, or did I overthink that? All of us as coaches will often kind of ask ourselves that. No, Coach Strong has more than earned his place, and we're not going to question his decisions in any of this whatsoever, because we know he knows what he's doing. But he'll be the first to tell you that he thought personally that he thought this group was a group that also I don't know, I think he said overachieved, right, in one of his post match interviews, but just maybe even over delivered. But as long as he's their coach, they're going to be there. They're going to be in the mix, and the culture and the program that he's built there. So you just knew. I think I had that feeling that all it might have taken in this match given Sanelli's strong, stingy defense as well, that all it might have taken in this match was one goal, right? One goal. But then again, we wouldn't have been shocked to see it go to penalties either. So, yeah, Steve's in here, or Steve Sanchez, who was there as well, talking about Sanelli having played a very disciplined match. No doubt. No, that's what you're going to get in a squad, both of these squads, right? This is why we say battle of wits, very strong, disciplined coaches. That's what you're going to get. So, Rafa, your thoughts?
Yeah, like we mentioned yesterday, it's like this was going to turn the winner of this game was who's going to impose their style of play, and you can tell from the get go that Sanelli wanted to control that. They wanted to dictate that, and for Bernie to kind of maybe sit back, try to absorb. Maybe that work. I think because they play maybe some similar teams. They did play Hidalgo, they played Progreso, or are similar styles to it. Sanelli is, and they thought maybe we had a little blueprint game plan for that. But I think when you come to these games, you really have to impose your will, and you have to be aggressive. And I think Sanelli realized, we have to go after them, because if we let them sit back, we may not have the legs, because they, like I said, they played an overtime game, and they could have worn out, if it went up to like a 0-0 game, and who knows, the result could have been different. But knowing that, they could say, hey, let's get this goal, because they knew getting the leads was going to break open the field of play. It's going to open up space. It's going to create more opportunities. And like Coach mentioned, like I said, they went to a 3-back, and Bernie's game plan, like I said, maybe if they started that in the beginning, who knows, it could have been a different result. But hats off to, like I said, Sanelli. They got the goal that they needed, and they remained disciplined in the back, and and now they're lifting the trophy and taking it back to the El Paso area.
Yeah. And Coach Sappenfield mentioned in here as well, just giving kudos to and just like Steve, the Bernie goalkeeper, outstanding match. And Sanelli's goalkeeper too, I called it the Superman save, had a very critical save late in that match. I think it's out of the last 8 minutes, I think. And 3 goals conceded by a very stingy Sanelli squad in 24 games. And congratulations. The Sanelli Eagles, the 4A boys, the 2023-2024 4A boys state champions, bringing back a 4th state title. And congratulations to the Bernie Greyhounds, as in their last match, right? Their last match as a member of 4A, and they come up one short, finish as runner-ups, but keep your heads held very high. Definitely deserve to be there. Great champions. They always compete with honor. And just a Michael Strong squad is just always, you're going to get 80 minutes plus of absolute grinding. So congratulations to the Bernie Greyhounds as well. Pretty phenomenal stuff. We were treated to a great final today, crowned our 2nd state champion. So excited. We got one more day left in the season, and we'll crown 4 state champions tomorrow in what is our final day of the season. And always bittersweet. We'll get into that a little bit more, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a quick word from our partners. Looking to step up your social media marketing game? Well, let us tell you about our great friends at Gipper. Gipper is a way that schools, athletic departments, ADs, and coaches create world-class marketing content. Join over 4,000 coaches, ADs, SIDs, and club directors who use Gipper to create high-quality visual branded graphics for your program. The best part? Anyone can do it in seconds on any device without needing any design experience whatsoever. If you do have significant design experience, you're going to love this as well, as you are what they call the power user, and this is designed with you in mind as well. And just for being a listener and supporter of the 50/50 podcast, you can receive savings immediately and save 10% off any first-time Gipper purchase. Simply visit gipper.com/partner/5050 to learn more. Again, that's gipper.com/partner/5050. And then there are our great friends at Global Scarves, both Bill and Kyle. They are the top providers of custom knitted scarves, beanies, and other fan merchandise in the U.S. All merch is fully custom with free design services and free shipping on all orders. They do so much more, guys, than just scarves. blankets, beanies, you name it. It's all designed and all customized to your specifications and needs. You can contact them at info@globalscarves.com to get any free designs or quotes built out for your school, club, or maybe even a supporters group. Simply mention the podcast or use the code #5050pod and they will be sure to take care of it. All right, and we are back, joined once again by the Obi-Wan Kenobi, Texas High School Soccer, Rafa, as well as our special guest, Coach Sazo, who's back for day 2, our returning champion. All right, guys, let's look. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at the final day, day 4, championship Saturday of UIL State Championship Week here. And so here's what's on the docket tomorrow, Saturday, April 13th. 4 matches, 11, again, all times approximate, with only our first match of the day starting on time. And the one thing I haven't even looked at, to be honest, is forecast for tomorrow. I have not even thought about looking at it. But 11 a.m. tomorrow, 5A girls final. Colleyville Heritage comes in at 24-0-2 versus Frisco Wakeland, 25-0-2. 5A boys final, approximately 1:30 between Frisco Wakeland and Midlothian. Then 4 p.m., 6A girls final, Austin Westlake versus Prosper. And then 6:30, the nightcap, the final match of the 2023-2024 season, Katy Seven Lakes versus Flower Mound. Great stuff. And so we'll look at match number 1. We'll start with 5A girls final, Colleyville Heritage, Frisco Wakeland. Thoughts on this one? Rafa, we'll start with you, buddy.
Well, the one thing tomorrow, the wind will be a factor tomorrow. I think they're predicting 15 to 25 mile per hour wind.
Go away, wind, man.
Yeah, so at game time tomorrow, there'll be a 15 mile per hour wind, so that can come to a factor. But this game, like I said, probably the 2 most talented teams in the Metroplex area for 5A soccer. They're 2 heavyweights, and I could see this one going to extra time and possibly penalty kicks. But I know Colleyville Heritage has been playing really well the last few games. I know Wakeland kind of struggled a little bit with Leander Rouse. We kind of thought Leander Rouse was, that they take care of business against them, but Heritage is the one that ended up taking care, really not having a hard time against Hendrickson. So this is going to go back and forth, but this game I'll give the edge to Colleyville Heritage. I think there'll be maybe like a 1-0 to 1 game, and I wouldn't be surprised if this goes to extra time.
Yeah, and shout out to Ken Murphy relaying a little bit more in depth of what you already mentioned, Rafa, about tomorrow. Just winds and high gusts definitely possible, peaking beyond 25 miles an hour. So we'll see. Hopefully it's kind. Hopefully it's kind to our matches. But yeah, I agree. This is an interesting one. So you're going with Colleyville Heritage, huh? So, all right, Coach Sazo, your thoughts on this?
Well, I can't agree more with Rafa. I mean, both teams are absolutely loaded with talent. Of course, you've seen Colleyville Heritage. They've been peaking at the right moment and taking care of business and taking names. And of course, Wakeland, we know too good and well how Wakeland boys and girls perform. So it's going to be much like the games that we saw, right, with Midlothian and even Sanelli's game, very, very tight. And we're going to have to wait and see how much the wind does play a factor. How much will playing those close, intense games within a 48-hour span play a role in tomorrow?
Right.
But either way, with Colleyville Heritage and Wakeland that they're going to bring it, and it's going to be intense. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be physical. It's going to be lots of shots off the crossbar and all kinds of crazy stuff. Hopefully we get to see a Duncanville bicycle kick or a rider flip throw. That would be icing and cherry on the cake, but 2 phenomenal squads, and it's going to be battle of tactics, battle of coaching, battle of adjustments, and who can finish, right? The goal is to put it in the net, but at the end of the day, like we all talk about, defense wins games, and the goal is who can score more. So I feel like if the floodgates do open, it's going to be one of those Colleyville and then Wakeland, Colleyville and then Wakeland. It's going to be really tight, or it could go the other way where both defenses absolutely just have a stellar performance and it's denial, and it's going to be for sure put into overtime, maybe even PKs.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one from the perspective of Wakeland had to put in more time, right, to get here than Colleyville Heritage, right, in the semifinal. So is that really truly an advantage for Colleyville Heritage or not really, right? Is it just once you arrive to the state final, you're operating on just adrenaline and the fact that you're there, right? But this is an interesting matchup from the perspective of Wakeland having been there, right, many times, well respected, well regarded as a great champion. Colleyville Heritage, who's just been knocking on the door, right, for a while now, Rafa, right? It seemed like every year definitely since we've started this in Inside Texas High School Soccer, they're always in the RPI, they're always in the conversation, we always have them going deep in bracketology, but it was hard they could just not break through to Georgetown. Now here they are. Now they find themselves in a final in what I think is probably their most talented squad that they've had in, maybe at least a decade, maybe, if not more. But and I think they match up extremely well with Wakeland. So yeah, could this be kind of the passing of the torch, so to speak, right? They've arrived, Heritage, but make no mistake about it, right? Wakeland, Heritage is going to have to take it from Wakeland, because Wakeland, we've seen this before. We've seen Wakeland down 2-0 in finals, late in finals, and turn it around and win, right? So there's a reason why we call them, it's a little bit geared a little bit more towards the boys, but still we use it with both squads, right? The reason why we call them El Cucuy. So Colleyville Heritage is going to have to see the match out in its entirety. So should be a great one for sure. So second match of the day, this is not a typo, it's the other Wakeland, right? As we move over to the 5A boys final, Midlothian versus Frisco Wakeland, scheduled for approximately 1:30 p.m. And this is of the three teams that had both their boys and girls squads making it to Georgetown. Wakeland is the only one that breaks through with both squads playing in finals. Your thoughts on this one, Coach Saza?
Well, I'll tell you what, that Midlothian game the other day was my absolute favorite. And to see these two match up, I cannot wait. This is probably one of my favorite lineups for tomorrow. It's going to be just an absolute dogfight to finish this game and to come out with that trophy. Of course, you have Midlothian, who's riding on a high with that fantastic 3-0 win, and Wakeland is Wakeland. That's why they call him El Cucuy, right? Or so you guys call him El Cucuy. They have the name for a reason.
Yeah, we can go with they. We can make it sound cool. Say a bunch of people. Yeah.
They're going to come out and they're going to be ready. And both coaches are extremely smart. They're very well coached, both squads. And I just know that it's going to be a battle, and it's going to be a very intense match, especially both of them coming off of the wins that they just had. They're both on a high, and I feel like it's going to be much like the Colleyville Heritage game, going to be very, very tight. There's not going to be very much room for error, because either one of these squads, if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile and a half, not just a mile and a half. They're going to punish, they're going to capitalize, and it's going to be about who can capitalize first.
Yeah. We got Steve in here going back to our previous match. He likes Colleyville Heritage in the girls 5A final. Rafa, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Steve. I'm not picking against El Cucuy on this one.
Steve, you're going to go with Steve on this one. I see how it is. Okay.
I mean, this is a great match.
He likes Wakeland as well. So
this is going to be a great matchup, and like I said, I think this is going to be a very tight game. The one that really takes advantage of the mistakes, and these two rarely ever make mistakes. But the one that can take the one mistake that could be crucial, that can take advantage of it, is going to be the victor of this game, because, like I said, they're well disciplined, well coached. The talent, you're deep in talent. But with Wakeland, like I said, they've been here before. It's been a while for Midlothian, but Wakeland's been here before. Like I said, this is their 9th trip to the state tournament in 14 years. So this is business as usual for them. And what they did to that game versus Glenn, who hadn't lost the game, they kind of made a statement there and say, hey, we're here, we're back, we're going to scare you, and we're here to reclaim what's ours, and so this like I said, this will be a great one. I'm going to give the edge to Wakeland. I think this would be maybe like a 2 game, and I want to, like I said, I want to be surprised if this one also goes to extra time.
Yeah. Ken Murphy in here with a great tidbit on Coach Guest from Midlothian, who coaches both the boys and girls program for several years. So, yeah, definitely not the norm, not at this stage in terms of Texas high school soccer now. Wasn't out of the ordinary, maybe a generation ago, but definitely nowadays, yeah. So great point by Ken Murphy. Uh, Prediction score lines on this, Rafa? Anything official? I know you meant what you said, maybe extra time penalties. What are you thinking?
Like I think like a two. I think a 2-1. I can see a 2-1 game.
Yeah.
But like I said, but the wind. Like I said, the weather can come in and factor on this. So I think whoever can take advantage of that. And I know they didn't have to experience it too much the last game, but this is going to be a factor on here. Who can, especially on set pieces, who can really score on those. That could come into play as well.
Yeah. Coach Sazo, I know you're not covering this one, so you can give us a prediction on this one. What are your thoughts on this score line?
I don't know. I don't want to go against El Cucuy, but I feel like Midlothian.
You feeling an upset here? You're feeling
not an upset per se, but I feel like Midlothian's ready and they understand what the task is going to be, and I feel like they're going to come out ready to battle. I feel like they're going to give them a really, really hard time. Might go into overtime, maybe a goal late in overtime. I don't feel like we'll have to go to PKs because somebody's going to figure it out between the two. But I don't know. I can't say that I want to pick one over the other, but I do feel a strong presence from Midlothian. I feel like they set the tone in their last game, and coming into this game, they know what they need to fix. They realize what they've done that needs to be better if they want to get into that final and come out with the trophy and not just get into the final. So I don't know. Keep an eye on Midlothian. I really feel like they're going to put on a show and make Wakeland work for their money.
Yeah. That's a great way to give us an answer without giving us an answer. I appreciate that, Coach. Thank you. Sorry, I got to pick on you. I got to pick on you every time. Yeah, you always freak out when I'm nice to you, so I'll leave it at that.
Well, because something's wrong. If you're being nice to me, something is wrong.
All right,
that means it's snowing, probably in El Paso.
Yeah, didn't it just snow last weekend in El Paso? I think, wasn't it?
Not really. Everybody calls it snow, but it's not snow. It was like sleet.
Powder, sleet. Okay, sorry.
Slush.
Sorry. Yeah, slush. All right, so we move on to final number 3, championship number 3, 6A. Excuse me. We move over to the 6A side, 6A girls in a 6A final that we all had written down, right? Austin, Westlake, and Prosper, right? I'm being facetious there. No disrespect to anybody here, but I mean, if you really thought this Westlake squad was going to be here outside of them and the people that know them closely, I would have to say that you might be full of it, because this was a squad that had to find their way and grind through district play. Comes out third out of an extremely tough district, and we saw them. Rafa and I got to see them last week in the 6A Region 4 regional tournament, and you look at them and it's like, man, nothing overly flashy, nothing overly special, but they grind you, and they just grind, and they just don't go away. And they're a nuisance. They're pesky. They're gritty. And the next thing you know, you slip up for a second, and then boom, they take advantage. So to see them here at this point, after what I've been seeing as they wrapped up district play, saw them last week, not shocked whatsoever. But did I have them here? No, I did not. So I'm not going to say that either. But here they are, Westlake versus Prosper, in what is going to be a intriguing final, 6A girls final. Rafa, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, like I said, Westlake, they have a tall task, but that doesn't mean they can't do it. And they've proven, week after week, they find ways to win. But does the buck stop here against a very solid defense that doesn't budge? And like I said, Prosper now found the back of the net. That's a positive, real big confidence booster for them. But like I said, the pressure is on Prosper here. So Westlake can go in here, and that's a very dangerous thing. If you go into a game with a team with
Rafa,
nothing to lose.
I'm glad you said that, because what's the term I used with Westlake? Do you remember? What is it called? What did I say? Do you remember what it is? House
House
house money, right?
house money.
House money. Yeah, you're dead on accurate with Westlake. Sorry, you said that, and it reminded me of that comment when we had that discussion about they're playing with house money at this point. All the pressure is on Prosper. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna roll the. Like I said, could Prosper end up throwing a crapshoot? On this, because like I said, they're expected to win. They have to finish kind of the story here, because of all the disappointment they've had the last few years. They're at this point they're knocking on the door to win it all. But Westlake here, you're playing a team that hey, we're not expected to win, so they're gonna throw everything at Prosper. And if it doesn't go Prosper's way, and if they keep Westlake around, then that little psychology is going to come into play, and that doubt's going to come in, and that's where Westlake can come and sneak up on you, and get what they did at Rockwell. Getting that today, getting that win. So I'm going to still give the edge to Prosper, but if they don't come out and be aggressive and go after Westlake, and they keep them around, don't be surprised you see an upset on this one. But yeah. I'm going to go lean towards Prosper. I'll give this one maybe a 2-0 win.
Right. Yeah, Ken Murphy's in here, and he mentions, sorry, I just don't see Westlake, with all due respect, breaking through to Prosper's D. Ken, I don't disagree with you one bit, but that's also what Austin wants you to think, right? That's what Austin wants Prosper to think. Don't disagree with you in terms of their defense one bit. I think that's what I've loved to see about Prosper, because I love it when you see teams at this level that pride themselves on defense, which is not the norm. That's extra special to watch, because everybody wants to score. Everyone wants to put in the net. But when you have a team that is truly stingy and prides themselves on not letting you score, that's special. But and you're right, Ruff. I think Westlake, or Prosper, I should say, has to get off to a fast start and just kind of kill the will, if you will, of Westlake. Because if we're inside of 20 minutes in that second half and it's 0-0, that pressure will start to mount on, and it's going to be one-sided. It's going to be on Prosper, not on Westlake. Coach Sazo, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, 100%. I mean, you guys took all the words out of my mouth. I think Westlake has a really big challenge up ahead. And Prosper has struggled to kind of find a back of the net. Obviously, they're here for a reason, so they're putting goals in the back of the net. But when you have a team that is so solid on defense, like you said, and the focus on being defensively sound is there, you kind of tend to lack a little bit in the offensive power, right? But if Prosper can continue to find the back of the net and Westlake gives them even the slightest bit of room, they're going to start firing off and putting it in the back of the net. And then you have Westlake, right? You have Westlake that can adjust and have a strong defensive game. And if they play it smart and mark up the people that are a offensive threat with Prosper, then I do see them giving Prosper a little bit of a hard time. So it's going to be on Westlake. Again, like you said, the psyche aspect comes into play, where people have been talking that they shouldn't be here per se, but that they weren't anticipated to be here, right? Just like you said, you wouldn't have ever pictured for them to be here. But I also think that's what gives Westlake their little bit of spunk, right? They're walking with a little bit of swagger. They're confident. I think it's helped to build that confidence. And now they know that they've earned their place here. They've put in the work. They've grinded it out. And they're here against Prosper in the state final for a reason. And I think that little chip on their shoulder might give them an edge. I think it's going to make things really interesting. But that's going to be a fantastic game to watch. I don't think I would have put Westlake up there either against Prosper, but hey, soccer, and I'm just proud that they're there, and all I hope for is a fantastic game.
Yeah, well said. And yeah, I think the other piece too is I was happy to see Prosper figure it out offensively today, right? And score and show their attack. Because I know if I'm Prosper and I'm listening to this right now, and you're just like, man, didn't we score today? Didn't we win 3-0 today? And yeah, you're right. I don't want to take anything away from them. I'm personally happy to see that prosper here after I know they had some tough losses a few years back, right? Some early first round upsets, some early first round losses, getting knocked out early in very, very, very talented squads. And now this is a squad that breaks through. And now here they are, the favorite going in, and they're 80 plus minutes away from a state title. So an intriguing matchup here in our 6A girls final. So best of luck to both squads. And our nightcap, the final match of the 2023-2024 season, will be our 6A boys final. Katy Seven Lakes, Flower Mound. Seven Lakes, by all accounts, expected to be here. Flower Mound has been here before. Last time they won a state title was in 2019. And here they are, they're back. So these are two powerhouses, two great names in terms of Texas high school soccer. It should now, what will the matchup look like? We talk about one key piece that Katy Seven Lakes will have to prepare for in Flower Mound, right? A variable that isn't the norm. What will this look like? Coach Sazo, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, and ironically, Coach Kruger ended up in the press box as I was taking notes on the final games. And one of the things that we talked about was that huge throw-in. I mean, that's essentially giving them another set piece, and that is going to be a huge variable in what they do defensively, right? Because it's a throw-in. There's no offsides. They have the ability to crowd the keeper, and that's exactly how those 2 goals got snuck in, right, with Flower Mound. But then you have players with Katy Seven Lakes, right? The Gatorade Player of the Year last year, and just the combination, the way they play. You saw Katy Seven Lakes kind of taking it easy in the first half, trying to figure out what it is that they needed to do to have the edge over. And then as soon as they decided to put their foot on the pedal, it was just them in their finishing third nonstop, coming off the post, doing all kinds of dynamic things on the attack. And that's what you're going to see out of Katy Seven Lakes. It's not just one-dimensional attack. It is, they're going to come at you. They're going to come at you hard, and they're going to come at you from different angles, different spaces. You have players that are able to interchange positions, and it's very multi-dimensional. And then you have Flower Mound, who's a lot more compact and smart defensively and organized, and maybe they don't have the versatility on the attack the way that Katy Seven Lakes does, right? But they still have some studs, and they have some extremely well-disciplined defenders, and they just, their combination play, their quick transitions, and the ability to push the ball forward into space is fantastic. So this is going to be a really good matchup. I'm going to give the edge to Katy Seven Lakes, and I'm going to say 3-0.
Oh, wow. Okay. Nice. Thought you were going to go a little tighter than that, but yeah. Okay.
I think they're going to open it up because, and I say this because these kids want to be part of history.
Right.
I know Flower Mound's going to come in and be defensively solid, but you're asking them to make history. They're going to do it not just with a little bit of They're not going to sprinkle just a little bit of They're going to come in and punch in there. They're going to say, yeah, we're here. We want it again. And we're going to do it in big fashion. And I feel like they're going to talk about some of the things that they needed to fix and how to be a little bit more dynamic and versatile, even more so on the attack. And they're going to capitalize and finish. Mm-hmm. So I expect for it to be tight at first. And then I expect for Katy Seven Lakes to figure it out and kind of break away.
Yeah. Yeah. And that could also depend on if Katy gets one early, right? Gets one really fast, right? That could change. That changes a lot of things too. So, okay. Rafa, your thoughts?
Yeah, like I said, this game, I mean, it's going to be a very competitive game. I think for Flower Mound to win this, they got to throw the first punch, which is they got to score first. I think if they score first, it really will put doubt into maybe Seven Lakes a bit. And especially when they do it, knowing that it's going to be windy tomorrow, they need to take advantage of those when they have the throw-ins. Throw them deep. Get your people in there. And if it just takes one little mistake, the goalkeeper missing the ball or bouncing off someone's shoulder and tapping it in, that could be the difference maker. But on the flip side, Seven Lakes has to really stay disciplined how to defend those as well too. And I'm sure them being able to watch the game tonight. I'm sure Coach Kruger is going to have a game plan to realize, okay, who do we need to mark, and especially who they were, like I said, who is Flower Mound targeting, especially on those throw-ins. And I'm sure they do have kind of set plays within those throw-ins. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a chess game, but Seven Lakes is knocking on the door on history. It's tough to win one, but it's really tough to get a second one back to back. And I think and then also to keep focus and stay hungry. And you can tell these players are hungry. They want more. They weren't just satisfied. Okay, yeah, we got one last year. Some of those players want to add a second ring, and it's gonna be a grinder on this one. But I'm gonna give Seven Lakes I think they win this one 3-1.
3-1. Wow. Yeah, you talked about the throw-in, right? The throw-ins, and they are, whether you're a goalkeeper, a center back, you're on a left post or a right post, a near post or a far post, what have you. They're hard enough to defend when they're coming at you at a distance like that from someone that can launch it. You add some wind into that, coupled with a couple of attackers, closing down on you quickly. That could be interesting. So yeah, but I agree with you. I think for Flower Mound, to, I'm not going to say to have a chance, but to be able to dictate a little bit and really kind of get out in front of this, they have to get out. I'm not going to say get out early, but they have to get out first, right? The thing about it, you look at these two teams side by side, the team that can score maybe quicker in bunches is Seven Lakes. So Flower Mound will have to play sound, smart defense, which they're known for, which they can. So, but you factor in that variable of the throw in too. I know that's going to take some careful planning along the way as well. And then you add wind on top of that. Will it be more of a factor at night, right? When you get the bright lights potentially in your face, right? Or would it matter if it was in a daytime game? Who knows, right? But little things that may or may not be a factor. But yeah, this should be a dynamite matchup. And when we look at these four matches, tomorrow, Championship Saturday, and then of course this one in particular, right, is coaching will play a factor, right? Ken Murphy was just talking about a minute ago, first-year coach for Prosper, right? The experience of having been here, the experience of having been this deep, and just the decisions. It often highlights not just the decisions you make, but the decisions maybe you choose not to make, right? So all of that will show up here tomorrow, and which should be some great games, great coaches, great programs, and I just hope the ones that ultimately win here are us, the spectators, the fans, the communities, Texas high school soccer. So I think we're in treat for 4 great matches that'll see us off for the 2023-2024 season. But yeah, that is going to do it. Coach Sazo, thank you again. Really appreciate having you. Rafa, we're almost done, man. A couple of days away from season finale, season 4 of Inside Texas High School Soccer in the books. Coach Sazo, your thoughts as we wrap up stoppage time. Any final thoughts? Thank you. Shout outs. Anything you want to share? The floor is yours.
Well, I'm just counting down how many days till tryouts. Everybody is. This is.
Has somebody posted that? I feel like I see that maybe once every other week on Twitter somewhere.
Yeah, somebody has a countdown, but I can't wait to be back here in Georgetown again. I mean, just the atmosphere is fantastic. The people are so sweet. I mean, the crowd is electric. It's been fantastic, but I'm just excited. I'm excited. Like you said, the spectators are the ones that win, whether you win or lose. This is high level soccer. And this is why we have things like this, like the podcast, because everybody's all intrigued for the same reason. And it's to see the high level and to see the progression. I'm just so proud of how much we've progressed as a state and how competitive that we are. Seeing how many kids are on the field that are signing to here and there and MLS next here and ECNL here. It's been fantastic. And I feel like we're taking such a step in the right direction. And I'm so proud and honored and excited to be part of that. And it's awesome to have people like you guys that just drive that same narrative that we want to be better and we're here to make an impact. And so I'm just super excited. I'm really glad to be here, really glad that you guys are doing this. And at the end of the day, whether you're going home or you're still here in Georgetown, you're here. You got here. And
Yeah.
it's that in and of itself is a task. So congratulations to every team that's here. Tomorrow's going to be fantastic. Championship Saturday, one of my favorite days of this entire tournament. Really, really excited. So hopefully we're in for a good treat. Hopefully, like you said, the spectators get to go home happy. But I'm happy. I don't know about anybody else. I'm happy. Shout out to San Elizario, Coach Max Sappenfield and the boys. Shout out to the city of El Paso.
There you go.
Shout
I'll
out
give you one more.
Mexicano and Rafa.
I'll give you one
And
more.
Steve.
There you go. There you go.
Steve, I didn't get to catch you, but shout out to you too. That's awesome that people are coming down here to witness all of what we're looking forward to. And we get to do this as a job, guys. Like, this is awesome. It's super awesome. So congratulations to every team that's here, that's not here. And let's everybody start planning in your phone, put the countdown. Can't wait for tryouts next year.
Yeah. Ken Murphy taking his 80-year-old mom out there tomorrow. That's awesome. That's what I'm talking about right there, Ken. Great stuff. Great stuff. We got to make sure we get her
an umbrella.
Get her a scarf, Ken. Get her a 50/50 podcast scarf that she can rock next time. But yeah, a quick question for you, Coach Sazo. And thank you for the kind words, by the way. Thank you for being here and what you do and what you're doing. And I think if more people really knew in terms of what you're doing for our game involvement, not just with, I know what you're doing with the school district, Isleta ISD, but also at Del Valle, but within Tasco, and the many conversations we've had in terms of, what we're trying to do for our sport, not now, but where we want it to be 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. You're doing a lot of great stuff. So thank you. We need more coaches like you in our profession. So thank you for being the great professional that you are. But I have a question for you. You were doing this role. You were in a very similar role at State in Georgetown there last year. Any differences from last year to this year that you're seeing, whether they're on the field, but especially off the field, spectators, fans, turnout, just certain vibes, conversations? Any differences? Anything at all that you're really seeing?
I did notice this year, ironically, that there were some teams that were real close to here in Georgetown, and they didn't travel well. Some of them didn't travel well. So I almost wonder if there was already an expectation to either win or lose. Like, maybe there was an expectation to have another game, or maybe there was an expectation like, oh, we didn't have a chance. And then you had other teams that came from further that just, packed the stands. So that was an interesting take, because last year it was packed regardless. And I remember those night games last year, literally the walls were jumping in the press box. And it was like that for some of the games, but we got to get more people out here. The turnout kind of, it was great, but it fluctuated based on who was playing. But at the end of the day, like, all of the coaches need to be out here. You've got to experience what it's like to be here. Maybe your team's not here per se, but you've got to experience what it's like, the atmosphere, the way that things, roll as far as the logistics behind the scenes, right? The game itself. We got to get more people out here. Yeah. And then as far as my role, it's the same role for 2 years. So nothing changed logistically on my end. I'm sure it'll change next year when I become the regional director, but logistically, as far as my role is concerned here with Tasco, it's still the same as last year when I was the rookie, as I am the first assistant. But those were the notable changes for me from last year. As far as the soccer, I feel like some of the teams that were in here were not even on the scope last year. And some of the teams that were on the scope last year kind of fell off. And it was interesting to see that fluctuation. But that's the beauty of our game, is you never know. Some of the top dogs get knocked down, and some of them don't even make the playoffs. And so it's been a real treat to see, most especially some of the underdogs, rise up and kind of grind it out. And that's just part of what you love, what I love, and what we all love of the sport. And it's been fantastic. But yeah, I mean, it's just, as you can tell, I have a lot of passion for the sport, much like you guys, and it's been such a treat to be here.
Yeah. Well, much like Rafa, I'm not that passionate about it, really, to be honest with you. It's an act on my end, right? So, Rafa, brother, thank you. Final thoughts, shout outs, anything you got? Floor's yours. What you got?
Yeah, well, just to ask, Coach, I know for with your role with with Tasco. Quick question here: do you feel that the 4A finals should be the nightcaps, both the boys and the girls? I know they're squeezed in between. Do you think they should be the final games and get that spotlight? Because I feel like they don't get the spotlight, stuck in between those two, I guess those two games. What does the UIL thinking? Maybe could we see a change in that?
I'm thinking we might see a change, especially if they end up going with the big school, small school. I mean, that's still in the works and that's still in the talks, but the probability of that happening is very likely. Logistically, I'm not sure what that would look like, so I don't want to put out information, but there's a lot of things that could change in terms of sites, in terms of the way that the tournament is structured itself, the amount of rounds that you have to get to that state final. So a lot of things can change, and all we're asking is for them to be open to the change, whether it's now or in a year from now. And it seems that they're open to it. But you read my mind 100%, Rafa. I was just thinking in the back of my mind today, like, man, you have them kind of intermixed in between some of the other games, and they don't get the spotlight. And absolutely, they deserve the spotlight, because those two 4A games were some of the most intense and high intensity matches, right? And they deserve the spotlight. They deserve to be, like you said, that nightcap game where you're in the lights and you feel the energy. The weather's cooler. It's difficult to play with the elements. So would I love that? Absolutely. And is that in talks? Absolutely. There's only so much that we can do. Of course, the ball has to be moved in their court, but we're passing the ball in their court. So all of these things, our president and the executive board do such a fantastic talking to Coach Garman about, and we expect some change. I do expect some change to happen, and I do anticipate for that to be one of the resolutions, depending on where they go with the big school, small school.
Yeah. 4A in particular, since we're discussing them, they've come so far just in terms of the competitiveness as a whole, right? Especially when you get to the top end, especially when you get to the state playoffs. And especially, I feel like I coined it in, what was it, 2022, right? When going back to that Salina Midlothian Heritage 4A girls final, still the best game I've seen in recent memory there in Georgetown. And it was the year I coined it, the year that 4A arrived, right? So we got to quit looking at it like, yeah, it's just they're the leftovers. They're not as competitive. They're just smaller schools, guys. They don't have, the same depth. They're not going to have 30 people, 35 people necessarily on their varsities, right? That's all that means. So
yeah, one of the things, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I think
one
it's
of the things that we were talking about in the press box when we were taking notes is we like to look and compare records, right? And one of the things that stood out to us with San Elizario is that they had a couple of losses, but all to really high quality 5A schools. Everything else, it was just like they were sweeping everybody. But I mean, it wasn't like they were getting taken out 5-6-7-0 by 5As or 6As. I mean, it was a really, really small margin. And so people who think that, it's just 4A, nah. I mean, you can put some of these 4A girls and boys to play 5 and 6As, and hands down, they will take the 5 and 6As down easy. So, I mean, shout out to 4A. The progress that they've made, like you said, is incredible.
Yeah. And in speaking about San Eli, if I'm not mistaken, I have to double check, but I could have sworn they lost their first, I think, either first 3 matches out of the gate or their first 2 or first, right, 3 or 4. But yeah.
3.
And then they never lost again all the way to the state title. Go figure, right? So,
if I'm not mistaken, he had a couple of injuries.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That were really instrumental, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not state champions for no reason, right?
Correct. Correct. So, Rafa, I'm sorry. You had, I know you had a question for Coach, but any other thoughts? Their final thoughts, I should say.
Oh yeah, like the 4A's, like I mentioned, they do deserve the spotlight. We saw what Salina did last year. They beat up on some really top high caliber 6A teams. I pretty much had them close in almost in the top 3 of my rankings pretty much the whole year, and they don't shy away. And even this year, I know they had a couple losses, didn't shy away. But going to tomorrow, like I said, we got some four really great games. Like I said, it's the finale of the season. It's been a great season. Lots of surprises, and we had some. Now we have our couple of our usual suspects here. Some opportunities to make history. So if you have a chance, like Coach mentioned, if you haven't been to the experience, going to a state tournament, I've done it before. I've done it at the old Georgetown field when it was grass, and I've done it when they did it at Round Rock. Probably the best game I probably went to was that I got to experience was there was actually at there in Round Rock was when Brownsville Porter knocked off the Coppell when Coppell was ranked actually number 1 in the nation. That was probably and I remember telling my head coach, like, watch this, Brownsville Porter's going to beat these guys. Oh, my head coach, nah, and these guys will take care of them. And Porter
crazy.
Porter found a way, and they got one in overtime, and you got to, like I said, you get to experience a lot of great teams. Probably the best team I ever seen was probably that Brownsville Nevada team that went 35-0. I have not seen a team that caliber as far as talent, touch, technical play, and stuff. I'm not sure there's some great teams around currently playing, but that's probably my kind of like the mecca of teams there. But that's what the experience you get to be there, and if you have a chance, head out there, if you're not too far away, and should be exciting 4 games tomorrow.
Yeah, well said. And my final thoughts, so we can get out of here, is really, Coach Sazo mentioned it a minute ago in terms of the stuff that we do. I think it was yesterday, actually. I don't think you mentioned it today, but just talking about how we're, crazy. Here we are, 11:30 midnight, and we're live on the interweb here talking about Texas high school soccer. And I was thinking to myself, like, man, I must be pathetic old man, right? But then here I look up and we got over 500 live viewers across our platforms that are with us right now here at 11:34 p.m. And it says something, right? It says something in terms of not our show, but the community in Texas high school soccer, right? And how it's evolved, how far it's come, still having a way to go, but just passion, right? Community, love, support, we and us over me and I, and being a part of something bigger and something special. And all of those things are, I think, what kind of stirs the pot and the passion and the fire. So, and it all culminates tomorrow, right? Our final day of the 2023-2024 season. Bittersweet, but Championship Saturday is here. And make sure, on a side note, make sure you like, rate, subscribe, follow. You can follow us on Twitter X at 50_50 podcast, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, and on YouTube you can search us, just the 50_50 podcast. Trying to grow our YouTube page. Go on there, like, and subscribe, and sign up for notifications, ring that bell. And our next show will be, so I know we've been talking about coming live for the last several days, but our next episode will be Sunday, April 14th. So not tomorrow night after the last game, but we will come to you Sunday, April 14th, 5 p.m. We will look back at yesterday, the day that was yesterday, Championship Saturday. Thorough breakdown. Probably have a special guest, maybe 2. And then we'll wrap it up with our season finale. We'll look back on the season that was. And then from there, and that'll do it. And then from there, we'll try to see if we can book some championship, the champions episodes, as we call it. Just kind of totally depends on if we can line up our schedules with coaches, and we can have coaches and some players join us. We'd love to do that. That is the goal. That is the plan. So be on the lookout for those. But grateful for all of you. Here we are, kind of on the eve. It's like the Christmas Eve right before the end of the season here. So excited, and but also this is kind of excitement, but don't look forward to it at the same time. So, all right, excuse me. That's going to do it for Coach Stephanie Sazo and for Coach Rafa. I am your host, Coach Cano. Thank you again for being with us here tonight. day 3 in the books, 1 day left. It's going to be a great one. But thank you, as always, for following us, listening to us. Everything you do or everything we do is for you. So thank you and continue to support. And you know what to do. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening. You've been listening to the 50/50 Podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on X at 50_50 pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening.